Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to the live stream. We're going to be doing a short backtesting video here. Got Juice World blasting. I love Juice World, so it's usually what I backtest to. If I told you guys how many hours I have backtesting to Juice World, I actually don't even think you'd believe me. I don't think you guys can hear this right now, though. I don't think this is out. I think I can play this. I don't think I'll get copyrighted for playing this. Let me double check if Juice WRLD ever released this. No, we should be good. If anything, I'll just cut it out. Okay, guys, so this is going to be a short video that's going to improve your trading. I'm going to break down everything I do on the charts. You guys will get to see it firsthand. Okay, cool. I'm going to turn the music down just in case. But yeah, let's get started. So what we're looking at is an asset called AEM that I've actually backtested in the past. So full disclosure, I know this is going to go bullish on the weekly time frame here. So the fact that I know, because I saw the chart before I went into replay mode, the fact I know that this chart moves bullish, it's very important to be honest still with your entries, your bias, everything on the chart. When you're actually live trading, you aren't going to see beforehand. So that's why when you go into backtesting and you're not honest with yourself, that's why you struggle to carry on the confidence you get in backtesting, the false confidence if you're lying to yourself. That's why you fail to transfer it over to live trading, because you're not being honest here. So be honest when no one is watching, when the charts are just in replay mode, and you will do tremendously better and have an increased amount of confidence when you're on the live chart. Okay. So I know this is going to move bullish, but I'm still going to be honest. Just for full disclosure here, on my past 2 live streams, I've been testing a new strategy. So as you see me go through this here, I'm going to enter based off the strategy that I normally use, the one that you probably have seen in my actual backtesting videos that weren't live streamed. And then I'm going to be testing out a new strategy as well. Okay, now what you guys will see here is you guys will see this big uptrend here, and I'm going to shade this in gray just so we can kind of showcase it a little bit better. I'm gonna make that. Okay, boom, perfect. So we have an uptrend. Now you'll see here these breaks of structure to the top side, they actually get halted. What do I mean when I say halted? I mean that at some point they failed to deliver, and they didn't fail to deliver just once. They failed to deliver multiple times. And you'll see here, you actually end up getting a sideways market. So if I were to show you guys the sideways market, it would be very easy for you guys to see it, because I'm the one providing you the visual. But if you guys were to just look at this price action here, if you guys were to say, at what point in time does this chart go sideways? Well, it would be at the times just previously mentioned, when the breaks of structure stop failing to the top side. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to input this rectangle over the sideways action. And this is going to present a halt in the market, a halt on the weekly time frame to be exact, meaning that we want the weekly time frame to start moving in a more trend-like environment, like it's doing here. And when it's in a trend-like environment, we want to notice a certain few characteristics. One, it's making moves above / away from the moving averages. Okay, so that's the first thing you want to recognize. The second thing you're going to want to recognize is that the impulses of buying are much longer, or they happen longer than the selling. What does that mean? Well, look how big this buying impulse is compared to this selling impulse. Look how big this buying impulse is compared to this selling impulse. And then it keeps going. But what we notice here is that the selling ends up actually being the same, covers the same distance, or it's a similar size range than the buying that happened before it. Okay. So that's one thing we can write here. Buying impulses are bigger in size. Those are two big things that you can write down for yourself, because if you start noticing these things in your own testing, then the way you identify trends is going to become much more consistent, and you're going to be able to start identifying better pieces of price you can actually enter in. Okay. So now you know two simple things we're looking for when we are expecting this next trend to come here. Either it wants to start doing that right away, or it wants to come down first and then go. The expectation is this on the weekly time frame. And you might be worried about all this price action here. We're not focused on that right now, but if I were to show you, if I were to go to a higher time frame, you would notice that these two things that I wrote down here on the 2-month chart, or just a higher perspective, a higher time frame perspective to actually view the orders, is that one, let me get rid of all this for you guys. It's making moves above / away from the MAs. So the higher time frame has made a move above and away from the MAs already. Secondly, its buying impulses are bigger in size. What does that mean? Well, similar to what it did right here, right here, right here, right here. Well, not right there actually, because this selling was actually bigger than that buying. So not there, but just this recent price action here, you'll notice that it comes back into action here, where this buying is a much more bigger range, or has much more candles in it than the selling that came afterwards. So that's why I'm not worried about all this price action to the left when I drop down to my weekly, because I know the precedent is already in place for a bullish market to come on the lower time frames. That's why I'm not worried about that, and the exact reason why I'm just focused on this. Okay, so this is what we expect. I am going to play price action until these two things are met. Okay, so price makes a move away from the MAs. Now, like I said, it could have done that right away. It could have came down further and done it later on. You can't predict when price is going to do it, but you can have a sense of an idea of what it wants to do based on how you're reading the overall orders in the market. Very important. So when we utilize those higher time frames, we already have a bias set in place, and then we drop down to lower time frames. We are looking for structure to showcase that it wants to move in the given direction of our higher time frame. So now that we have a first sign that this is potentially going into a trending environment, I'm going to delete this. It's made a move away or above the MAs, right? And now the buying impulses are bigger in size. Well, this impulse is much bigger in size than its previous two buying impulses. So this is giving me a reason to believe that with the move away and this large amount of buying, that when the selling comes in, it will create a shorter selling leg that will produce another large buying leg, which would come in something like this. Okay, so let's see what happens. I'm going to get rid of this on the chart. Let's wait for selling to come in. Okay, boom, selling has come in. Now I'm going to label this. So I'm going to label this as the first break of structure. And then this would be potentially, so this would be the first break of structure out of this sideways price action, which we could call an accumulation. quick 30-second lesson on accumulations and distributions. Price moves sideways, and then breaks up above all the highs that were in the sideways price action. This would be an accumulation, ACC. If price goes sideways and breaks down below all these lows, well, this would be a distribution. So with the break upwards, this would be the first break out of accumulation. So we know it's an accumulation because it broke upwards. And this would now be the first high that it is running in its potential trend. Okay. So this would be the first high it has a chance to run. And remember, we are waiting or expecting this selling here, which I'll highlight in red for selling, to be shorter than the buying that came in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down to my daily time frame. Now, why I do this here is because the weekly is now in an environment where it looks like it wants to go and create this trend that I previously had drawn for you guys. So it's looking like it could potentially make a move like this, and I am looking to follow that move on lower time frames. So I'm lining everything up. I'm dropping down accordingly. And for me to see the lower time frame price action in here, I do have to drop down to a lower time frame because you use time frames to zoom in on price. Very, very important. You use time frames to zoom in on price. So let's drop down to the daily time frame. Now you'll see the daily time frame is doing exactly what the weekly did in this area here. So you see how the weekly went sideways. The daily is now going sideways. And what we can expect the daily to do, if it does want to make this higher time frame leg on the weekly time frame, then we can expect multiple breaks of structure like this to come into the market. Now that's what we expect. That doesn't mean it has to happen, but that's what we are expecting. So let's play price out. Let's wait for an accumulation break. So a break past all highs in this area, and we get it. Boom. So we now have a move away from the averages, right? So let's go back to here. Let me copy this, put it over here. We now have a move away from the averages, and a decent size amount of buying has come in compared to the selling legs that previously were larger than the legs of buying. So sellers were in control here. Buyers look like they have retaken over. And now you have the first break out of the accumulation. Okay. Now the second break, or sorry, the first break in its potential trend, because the weekly, if the weekly wants to do something like this, the daily has to do the exact same trending model. So the daily will have to do something like this to be able to carry out that weekly leg. So the daily has to do something like that for the weekly to put in that higher high. And the daily at the current moment is doing just that. So let's wait for a pullback on the daily because the daily is now in a potentially trending environment. We just want to wait for a small selling pressure to get this higher low in this area here to make that higher high. And in this whole area, we'll be on a lower time frame doing the exact same thing we have done on the daily to the weekly, we will do on the 1 hour to the daily. So we will reconfirm that price made this bullish leg, and then orders inside this leg want to turn bullish out of accumulation and start taking out this daily high right here, which is fulfilling the weekly leg. So let's wait for a pause on the daily. You get the pause. This is the first high to be ran. So we drop down to the 1 hour. 1 hour is not an accumulation. It looks like it's going sideways. So 1 hour. I usually don't make my charts really messy, but I want you guys to get an idea of a couple things here. I want you to get an idea of what it looks like when a time frame comes out of sideways action and into accumulation, and then how this trending model is repeating across time frames. And we're viewing it by going down the line of fractals so we can eventually get involved on the time frame we want to enter on. You only have to go down the fractal line as much times as it takes you to get to your entry time frame. So we started on the weekly. The daily breaks down, proves accumulation out of this area, shows that it wants to make a trend. So we go down to the 1 hour. The 1 hour has this big trend, falls down, goes sideways, and now we're waiting for it to prove accumulation. Does right here, comes out of this area. Whether you draw it down here and it reaches above this high, or you draw it up here, it doesn't really matter. I'll put it right here because this is what looks like it makes the most sense to me. And now, guys, the 1 hour time frame has moved into accumulation. It's had this first breakout of accumulation, and it's now created the first high to run. So we are going to play the idea that this high is going to get ran. But now when we drop down to our entry time frame, the 10-minute time frame, you now see the exact same thing you have seen on the weekly so far, the daily so far, the 1 hour so far, and now it's happening on 10-minute time frame. So you have this trending environment where breaks of structures no longer hold, and then price falls down. We expect it to move sideways in this area here, improve accumulation at some point. Okay, so price has kind of fallen down. It was trying to like maybe accumulate in this area, but it ends up falling down. So my 1 hour time frame, it actually doesn't look as good as anymore, because after this break, it fails the moving averages and it falls down, and it didn't hold the average of price, where I would have liked to see that buying come in to get the next move up like this, where the 10-minute would have bounced on those averages and created a move like that, a trending environment. But instead, it just fails down. So what we need to wait for is the 1 hour to prove itself again and move back into accumulation. And it does exactly that. So we have that first breakout of accumulation, and then we have that first high to be ran again. The count resets because it ultimately failed. This potential trend at the time, it never came into fruition. It failed. So we restart the trend. The 10-minute here looks like it's going sideways. And out of this sideways price action, we expect a trending model. So we wait for some sort of accumulation to come into play. It does. So price accumulates here. And so my first entry would have been right here. This is the new system I've been testing. So I enter off a strong candle that comes out of the accumulation, and my stop loss goes below all action on the left side, which would be all of this. So that's my first entry. My second entry for the system that I've back tested for probably almost a full year now will be if this pulls back, I'll actually set a buy stop on a candle's high, and I'll look to take it like this, kind of like that. I'll show you. Do I get a pause? Yep. Oh, high, low. So my entry would have been right here. I have a 3 candle rule, guys. So my 3 candle rule is I need a high. So a high is a candle with a low on each side. And then the second candle, it actually needs to take out the low of a previous candle. Then the third candle can validate. What this looks like is I'll actually show you guys here. I actually have this in front. Where are we going here? So I have a candle rule. First candle, high. The rule starts from the high. Second candle takes a low. At minimum, it has to be the second candle, as long as a new high isn't in. Then the third candle, my validation candle, at minimum has to be the third candle. Okay. So that's exactly what was met here. So these are my trades, and I'm going to play them both out. Now this one, I take profit at 3 RR. This one, I take profit at 5 RR. For both trades, I break even at 1 RR. Okay, boom. So both trades actually end up, being successful in this case. So those would be winners. And those could have easily failed just as much as they won right there, guys. Most of my trades end up failing, losing, break evens. Big misconception in trading is that you have to win majority of the time, but that's not at all the case. Most of the time I'm losing. But it's kind of cool there how you guys got to see both trades win, because on the second entry here, I'll make this one a different color so you can see it better. This one actually could have got validated on this candle here, made this candle, and then came down to hit me at break even or a loss. And then this first trade could have still continued upwards, right? So not both trades had to win either. But the fact they did is good. It could be added to my data collection. And then what we do here is we go back to the 1 hour. We can let the trade play out. And you'll see here that this large buying has came to an end. And it's now created a second high to potentially run and take out like this. But I'm going to give you guys a little lesson here. So this is based off a lot of testing. Usually when the range, so from here to here, is fairly large, and then selling takes it down to the bottom of a range that is large, oftentimes I will see price just like fail and then reset something else up on the time frame, the 1 hour in this case, that the range was created on. So we've got that accumulation on the 1 hour. Price comes out. It's creating a trend-like environment. But I do expect this to fail now, just because it's in a very big range and it came down quite a bit. And that's just showcasing a little bit more weakness than I would normally like, but I could totally be wrong. This could just create like 7 candles up right now in a row and just end up going. Very true. So let's see. Let's play time on this 1 hour. And just so you guys see where we're actually at. So we're getting that leg on the 1 hour that the 1 week that we expected, right? Let me take these here. Shoot. Let's put this like weekly. Where did that go? Okay, so that's all the weekly stuff. Let me try and organize this real quick for you guys so I can kind of break it down better. Go down to the 1 hour here. One hour. Let's go to the daily. Daily. And what else? What's all this? Is it like extras? I should have done this as I was going, but I was kind of on a roll. Weekly. All right, and I'll delete this and this because I don't even know where it's at. And then I'll delete that as well. Okay, cool. So you guys see here how from that beginning bias where the weekly was in a sideways environment, it's broken out into a trending model. And we now look for this exact pattern where a trend starts, pauses, and then goes again on every time frame after the previous time frame confirms it's broken out into accumulation, right? So let's go through it one more time really quick. Weekly breaks out of accumulation, boom, creates this high to run. Okay, so what do we expect? We expect the daily to have created that trending model upwards. So this right here, this action right here, and then it gets halted, it goes sideways, and then it breaks out into accumulation again, right? So it breaks out into accumulation and creates the first daily high to run. So the 1 hour, it's already created this trending model. It moves sideways, it breaks out a couple times, proving accumulation, and then it creates a first high that can be ran here. So on our entry time frame, what do we have? We drop down again inside this 1 hour accumulation leg that we looked at, right? We were also looking at areas here, but price ultimately ended up failing down. And then price on the 10-minute creates that trending environment, gets halted, moves sideways, and then breaks out, forms accumulation here, and gives us our entry setups, our entry models. Okay. And that is what led to an entry. So we did all of that for an entry, right? Just one entry. Well, two in this case, but if I was just trading one strategy, it would just be one. So where we left off is price created this big range on the 1 hour, and I'm expecting it to fail, but let's see what it'll do. Two simple things we're looking. Let's play price, and price fails, right? It's created this ugly wick that shows indecision. Like, why did price come down this low when the averages have been smooth sailing upwards? Why did price come down this low? It's showing me sellers have entered the market, buyers are no longer here, and that it's currently weak right now. And so price on the 1 hour has created this trending model, but it's failed quite quickly here. And the daily time frame, if I were to remove all of these markings, it's created a new high for us to run, right? So this was the first high, and now I can mark out the second high here that we can now wait for the 1 hour to step into some sort of accumulation and potentially be traded as long as it's clean action and prevents us a setup or provides us a setup. So doesn't stay under the averages long and then bounces back up. So this would be one first accumulation break. This would be the first high that's going to get ran. On the 10-minute, we have this trending model. It gets halted, breaks of structure, stops to the top side. You see sideways action starts coming in here. Again, actually, forget about it. I'll explain that another day. 10-minute, we wait for the sign of accumulation. If we get a candle over this area here, I will enter right there. And then if price makes that accumulation and then creates a pullback, I will have another entry right here. Okay. Okay. So this candle is quite ugly. One, it's a market open candle, so I probably wouldn't have traded it. And then two, I haven't actually tested, entering on the market open candle. So this comes up and then ultimately fails down again into this sideways price action here. So we're going to wait to see if this can create something cleaner. And by cleaner, I just mean maybe come out of a different area, improve accumulation, and then we can look to potentially enter. So I'm just looking at this here because I do see an area this is potentially coming out of. So I'm thinking that my entry would actually be right here. This would be for the new strategy I'm testing where I enter on the candle break of the accumulation. So I'm going to take this, and then if something presents itself for my other strategy, I'll take that as well. Just because at the 1 hour, I'm considering trades here because I'm sure the 1 hour MAs are still probably in a good environment. Yeah, right. So 1 hour MAs are still really good here. They're sailing them, they're higher, they're holding. Whereas when we stopped looking back here, this candle like failed completely. This candle right here, it came up and then failed completely and turned MA sideways. So you'll see right here, the moving averages are actually sideways. Whereas right here, they're actually sloping straight up. So that's the reason I would consider trades here, but not over there. And then this is a -1. So it doesn't give me a second entry, but it gives me a -1, which is great because every system needs a -1 and you're going to take losses. And that's just reality. You didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing that's, wrong in your system. You simply took an entry and it failed. And sometimes you'll take an entry and it'll work. And you're going to be profitable off the entries that work or the entries that break you even. And then the losses will just be small losses that make up or the big winners make up for. So this will go in trades. And now the 1 hour MAs are probably bad. Yeah, so completely sideways. This candle breaks under it. And now we're getting into a little bit more of a choppy environment. So I'll see what happens on the 1 hour here. I'll see if it actually presents something that's worth it. Okay. So this candle completely gaps down and then makes a big move upwards. Yeah. To be honest, I'm not used to price action like this. So I might just skip out on this completely. What I think can happen is, yeah, this could be an extension. This point right here could be an extension of this second high. So price may still want to, run it and create a third high on the daily somewhere up here. And there is large buying, so that means there's a lot of volume behind it. But I don't know, something about this move is just weird. Like I probably want to see it hold at least once before I even consider trading. That's what I think. Cause like I don't know what's gonna happen here. So let's see what actually happens. Yeah, it just fails down. Now this is ugly. See how I was unsure. So take a note of that. I was unsure. My rules were technically met. The 1 hour came out of accumulation and created the first accumulation break and created the first high to be ran. And even though the rule was met for me to drop down to my entry time frame, the 10-minute, I chose not to. Now, how many people would have forced something right there? How many people would have been impatient, seeing other people get involved in trades and say, screw it. My rules are met. I want to be in a trade. I want to potentially make money. I want to gamble my money in an environment where I'm unsure just because I want to make money. Well, you don't get involved directly, you don't make money by getting involved directly in the market. Well, you do, but profitable traders understand most of your money is made on the sidelines. And when you understand that, and when you can actually represent that within your own trading, well, you will be ahead of much more people than you'd actually think. So just a little tidbit there. I gotta change this song. I'll probably just go back to the song I started on. If you guys are watching this, I'm actually about to upload a break of structure video for beginner day traders. So after you're done watching this, go check out this video. It would mean a lot if you just liked, comments one thing you like about it. It helps the channel grow. It helps me, continue making videos for you guys. But without further ado, I mean, let's get into this right here. So the daily now has completely failed the moving averages. It's no longer in a trending environment. So we just watched the 1 hour continuously start a trending environment, fail, start a trending environment, fail, start a trending environment, then fail. This was weak, honestly. Like it was showing me it was weak right here. So started, only creates two breaks before it fails again, and then creates one break and then fails again, and then creates another break upwards and fails again. So probably around this point here, like on this break, I should have known that I'm in a weak market. This didn't want to sustain itself whenever the 1 hour proved accumulation, which is a sign that the market is a little bit weaker. Now the daily is failing down here. So it's coming to a halt. So we expect sideways action where we get that accumulation and then follow in here on the 1 hour. You see how I know exactly what I need to happen before I can get involved? These are rules, guys, and your rules will keep you out of bad price action. So price jumps back up on the daily, creates that first accumulation break, and the 1 hour is in a big trending environment. So we need the 1 hour to start going sideways somewhere here and create that first high on the daily that we can expect to be ran. Boom. Breaks of structure start not delivering. You get sideways action, and then you get failure. And now on the daily chart, this high is now in place to be ran. Takes a little bit longer, moves sideways here, but fails to create a strong break out of all this sideways action and actually ends up moving lower. So creates a downtrend or bearish structure lower. And I imagine that the daily averages are somewhere around here doing something like this. And this has probably failed them. Yeah, see? So daily averages were right here coming up, and then price fails. So we now have to be sidelined. And just so we're aware what's happening on the weekly time frame, you see the trend that we first talked about and expected in the beginning of this video is actually coming into fruition. So the weekly trend is continuing, and it'll continue for longer in a time sense because it's a weekly time frame where you see the lower time frames like the 1 hour and the daily break down a lot more, because in the amount of time that passes, more candles are being printed, and those candles are making trends at a faster speed than a trend on the weekly can play out, which is why in all these areas here, in this buying, this buying, and this buying, you have trends. What do you think is going to happen to this trend at some point? Well, it's going to go into an environment like this, where it first started. Okay, so the daily broken down. Okay, so the daily breaks down. It's come to a halt. We expect sideways and then a strong move that shows accumulation. This move wasn't enough for me. If it made like one more candle higher like this, I'd probably, consider that a strong accumulation break, but it's kind of just in this area still. Fails down lower. Let's make sure the weekly still looks good. Weekly looks great. Daily's created a big push above the moving averages, and buying impulse have become bigger in sizes, where the selling impulses have shortened in size. So on the daily, this is the first break. On the 1 hour, breaks of structures stop delivering and you get sideways action. And at this current moment, we have actually created an accumulation break. And we are now waiting for that pullback on the 1 hour, because the 1 hour has potentially started an environment where it can trend. And we see that 10-minute trend, this 10-minute trend off this sideways action, or that started the move out of the sideways action on the 1 hour. We now need to come to a halt, pause, and then move into accumulation and go. Same thing over and over again. Like, it's super boring. Okay, so pull back on the 1 hour. Okay, we get it. It's pretty strong though. Like, it comes down to one candle pretty aggressively. Let me see the 10-minute. Like, see, it's weird because I just don't know why it came down like this so quick. And that's already presenting like a red flag to me. I mean, it can go. For data collection purposes, I'll take this trade. It was the break out of the accumulation. And then I potentially have another trade setting up right here on this high because it's going to meet the 3-candle rule. I have a high with 2 candles on each side that are lower. A low gets taken from this candle that is the high. And now my 3rd candle I need to validate to enter me in this trade, or a candle past the 3rd candle, given it still looks pretty good. Okay, so boom, we're in this trade. Both trades are in. Let's see, I need this one to go 1 to 3. So I need this one to at least get here. And then this one I need to get 1 to 5. This has a smaller stop loss, so it's actually going to hit 1 to 5 much quicker and in a lesser amount of space. Just because the stop loss on the first entry is actually bigger. Let's play it. So first entry might have been a break even. Did it get 1 to 1? No. So this is a loss. Oh, sorry, the second entry was a loss. So that's a loss. I'm going to put 1 there to signal -1. But this other trade is still going. So let's just play it out. And then that one loses too. Now looking back at this here, when I look at the selling of this candle, like, yeah, it was kind of aggressive. Even though it held MAs, it was still kind of aggressive. This could potentially be, something I don't enter off of, next time. Let's compare it to the other 1 hour pullbacks. Kind of steady, multiple candles. This one was actually aggressive. And that one came to a loss too, actually. That's interesting. What did that entry look like? Oh, okay, that was that one. So that came to a loss as well. Anything down here? Okay, so it's just here. Just gonna go back over here and look at this 1 hour entry. Yeah, at some point I'm gonna have to look at, 1 hour setup like this. And when that selling that comes down to create that pullback at the high that's supposed to be ran in that uptrend. This is supposed to be ran in a potential uptrend. When the selling comes down that aggressive, yeah, I'm not too sure. That's an area of my trading where I need to improve. But yeah, guys, with all that being said, I think I'm gonna end the live stream. I think I've been going for what, how long? 34 minutes. I mean, yeah. If you were just chilling here for 34 minutes and you learned something, that's a win. Some people sat there all night on their phone scrolling and not learning anything. If you got any questions, obviously leave them down in the comments. I will get to them, of course. Like, subscribe. I will live stream. I live stream Fridays, Saturdays, sometimes Sundays, and then I'm going to try and do them midweek as well, just so we can kind of, cover as much as possible and keep repeating the same things over and over again, just so it gets stuck in, your head as a viewer. And the more things that, you get mental repetition on, the more or the faster it'll make sense to you. Yeah, so everyone have a good night and peace.